It's hard to exactly define disrespectful in this context, but it's one of those things where you know it when you see it. While things like a good screen and roll, a clever coaching adjustment, or an offensive rebound might win the game, they aren't the plays we remember when we look back. Instead, it's the wild crossover that leaves your opponent in a heap on the ground, the rim-shattering dunk, the game-winning shot in dude's face. These are all things that qualify as disrespectful here. But let's look back in history and see what counts as the moments known to be the most disrespectful ones. Let's move forward with our video and have a look at the top 10 most disrespectful moments in NBA history. So let's begin. But before we proceed further, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do hit the subscribe button so that you won't be missing out on any future NBA content. Number 10. Joe Johnson doesn't respect his elder, 2012-13. In his final season with the Boston Celtics in 2012-13, Paul Pierce found himself matched up with a player who was, in some ways, sort of a younger version of himself. Joe Johnson, then with the Brooklyn Nets, played the game at his own pace and used his solid 6'7", 240-pound frame to leverage good looks against more athletic defenders. But this play was against an elder statesman, and Johnson was just mean. With the first few dribbles, Johnson puts the ball well in front of his body, basically begging the past-his-prime Pierce to reach. The moment he did, JJ was gone, and the crossover was so low that Pierce literally couldn't get up right after the reach. Pierce almost looks like he's moving in slow motion, but those of us who play pickup ball well past our primes know that feeling all too well. Number 9. Lance Stephenson shimmies on Courtney Lee, 2013-14. There's a lot going on here, as is often the case with Lance Stephenson. A nice tight spin move gets Courtney Lee going one way before a quick crossover back to the left drops him. Then, and this isn't a given with the then Indiana Pacer, he hits the jumper. All that in itself probably wouldn't have warranted consideration for this list. But it's what Stephenson did after the shot went in that secured his spot in the top 10. It's not so much a shimmy as just a distinctly Stephenson dance, and it had to make Lee and the Celtics feel even worse about giving up the bucket. Number 8. LeBron James levels Jason Terry, 2012-13. LeBron James may get docked a point or two on our imaginary scale for the overwhelming difference in size between him, being 6'9", 250 pounds, and Jason Terry at 6'2", 185 pounds, but the image of this dunk is still striking. LeBron literally levels the then Celtics guard here. He gives him a brief stare down afterward too. One has to wonder what Terry was thinking by even attempting to contest that lob. That was undoubtedly a moment for a business decision. Instead, Miami Heat era LeBron flew through him like he wasn't even there. Number 7. Paul George's arrival, 2012-13. The 2012-13 playoff served as Paul George's arrival. He averaged 10.0 points over his first 2 seasons with the Indiana Pacers, then jumped to 17.4 and made the All-Star team in 2012-13. But he first looked like a star that postseason. Paul averaged 19.1 points on the way to an Eastern Conference Finals matchup with LeBron James' Miami Heat, and he punctuated the playoff performance with this monster jam during Game 2 of that series. It gave him 2 of his 22 points during the Pacers' win in Miami. Of course, the Heat would go on to win that series and the championship, but that didn't derail the star trajectory George put himself on. Number 6. Kobe Bryant catches 2 nets, 2012-13. Of course, there were a number of moments from the last decade we could have gone with for the legendary Kobe Bryant, though 2 Brooklyn Nets in 2012 and 13 before he tore his Achilles that season deserved the love. The Lakers great was nearing the end of his age 34 campaign. Players that age, with the kind of mileage Bryant had on his legs, aren't supposed to be able to do this. After he burns Gerald Wallace, a decent defender, with a slight hesitation on the perimeter, Kobe goes airborne from outside the restricted area even though Wallace is still on his hip, and Chris Humphries rotates over in time to help. Neither could deny Kobe. He didn't just dunk on them, he somehow threw it down through them. Keep yourself tuned in as we discover 5 more disrespectful moments with you all. Hope you guys are enjoying the video, and if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, do it now in order to make sure that you don't miss out on any future NBA content from now on. Number 5. James Harden drops Wesley Johnson, 2017-18. Some might try to discredit this James Harden play by saying he gave a little bit of an off-arm shove to the Clippers' Wesley Johnson mid-crossover. That's fine. It's everything else that happens after the dribble that pushed this moment into the top 5. After giving Johnson the jelly legs, the Rocket star stares at the downed defender, spins the ball, and then drills a 3. And if all that weren't enough, Harden lets anyone who'll listen know about the play as he runs down the court. Number 4. Blake Griffin destroys Kendrick Perkins, 2011-12. How is this only number 4? The further we climb this list, the harder it is to make judgment calls between one play and another. The former Clippers star had a similar dunk over Timothy Mozgov, although he didn't actually touch the rim on that one. He also had that absurd spin and slam over Danilo Gallinari in transition, but an arbitrary limit of 1 moment per player forced me to settle on this utter destruction of Kendrick Perkins and his attempt to contest perhaps the greatest in-game dunker of all time. Number 3. DeAndre Jordan annihilates Brandon Knight, 2012-13. The Lob City Clippers were something else. During their time there, LA was plus 9.1 points per 100 possessions when DeAndre Jordan was on the floor with Griffin, but they aren't remembered for their points per 100 possessions as much as plays like this. The all-out assaults on the rim often defied comprehension. How does a human being that size, 6'11", 265 pounds, get that far off the floor? On top of the sheer athleticism displayed on this alley-oop, Jordan stepped over Brandon Knight after the dunk. Then, he gave the stink face that instantly became a mainstay in NBA memory. And finally, he hit the free throw to complete the three-point play in a season in which he shot 38.6% from the line. Number 2. Steph Curry over all of the Clippers, 2014-15. Steph Curry tortured 4 of 5 Clippers on this single play. JJ Redick was the only one spared, since he stayed on his man in the corner. In a span of 2 or 3 seconds, and within maybe 2 or 3 square feet of the floor, Curry seemingly puts a move on Matt Barnes, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Spencer Hawes. Then, after dribbling away from the rim, the Warriors star launches a turnaround fadeaway 3 that would be considered a dreadful shot for just about every other player in the history of the sport. This is all subjective, but the totality of what Curry did in those few seconds is mind-boggling. Number 1. Damian Lillard waves goodbye to Russell Westbrook, 2018-19. In the 2019 postseason, Lillard's actions spoke much louder and with more force than any words could. After being on the receiving end of plenty of trash talk throughout their first-round playoff series, the Portland Trail Blazers guard stared down Oklahoma City's George, a lengthy defender who was an MVP candidate that season, and launched from 36 feet as time expired in the fourth quarter of Game 5. He drilled it, giving him 10 threes and 50 points for the game, and ending OKC's season. What really pushes this moment to number 1, though, is what Lillard does afterward. He completely and utterly dominated Westbrook in this series, and then he waved goodbye to him after this shot. His stone-faced expression in the dog pile afterward gave him bonus points he didn't even need. With the level of confidence most NBA players have, they often can't help but bring a little extra before, during, or after a big play. So which moment do you think was the most disrespectful one? Let us know your answers in the comment section down below. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Thumbs up if you've liked it, and do hit the subscribe button so that you won't be missing out on any interesting video from now on.